At 2 a.m., barefoot and clutching nothing but her phone, she stood on the sidewalk while her husband locked the door behind her. Why? Because she didn't cook his mother's favorite soup. Stick with her while she shares her story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. Maya, a 29-year-old nurse from Illinois, had just finished a brutal 12-hour hospital shift. Her feet ached, her back throbbed, and all she wanted was sleep. She had been married to Ethan, a 32-year-old IT professional, for 2 years. They dated for 4 before that. Years that started with laughter, late-night drives, and promises of forever. But forever began to rot the moment Dolores, Ethan's overbearing and manipulative mother, wedged herself between them. Dolores never liked Maya. From the first handshake, there was tension, polite smiles that didn't reach her eyes, suggestions wrapped in criticism, and a constant undertone that Maya was never enough, not domestic enough, not traditional enough, not raised right. And Ethan, he used to defend Maya, but over time, his voice dulled, his spine bent. He started calling Dolores every morning. Her opinions ruled their dinner plans, their holiday schedules, even the way Maya dressed. Whenever Maya pushed back, Ethan claimed she was disrespecting family tradition. Respect meant silence, submission. That night, it was the soup. Dolores had requested her favorite beef tripe stew, something Maya had once spent 6 hours learning how to make just to impress her. But this time, Maya came home exhausted, drained from double shifts, and barely able to keep her eyes open. She left a note in the kitchen. "Sorry, I couldn't cook tonight. We'll make it tomorrow. Hope you understand." Dolores did not understand. At 2 a.m., Ethan shook Maya awake with rage in his eyes. He shouted about humiliation, about how she made his mother feel unwelcome. Before she could speak, he was dragging her by the arm, hurling words like daggers. When they reached the door, he opened it, pushed her out, and slammed it shut behind her. She stood there on the icy concrete, barefoot, shivering. Dolores stood behind the window with a smug smile, sipping tea. Her kingdom had no place for a woman who dared to be tired. And just like that, the night everything fell apart. When Maya first met Ethan, everything felt like a dream. He was charming, kind, and always looked out for her. He brought her flowers just because, walked her to her car after every date, and always checked in to make sure she got home safe. He made her feel special, like no one else had ever done before. He told her she was the only person who truly understood him, and Maya believed that with all her heart. They dated for almost 4 years before getting married. In the beginning, things were sweet and warm. But looking back, Maya now sees the early cracks that she once ignored. The first time Maya met Ethan's mother, Dolores, something felt off. Dolores smiled and hugged her, but the words she said were sharp and fake underneath. She asked Maya, "Are you sure you're ready for someone like Ethan? And do your parents even believe in marriage the way we do?" It was all said with a soft voice and a polite smile, but Maya could feel the judgment. Dolores clung to Ethan like he was still a little boy. She called him 3 to 4 times a day and expected him to pick up no matter what. If he didn't answer, she would leave long emotional voicemails about how she felt forgotten. At first, Maya thought it was just a close mother-son bond, but soon it started to feel suffocating. Over time, small things began to change. Ethan told Maya that one of her tops was too revealing and asked her to change before dinner with his family. He told her that her best friend Lena was too loud and not a good influence. He asked her to stop visiting her parents so often, saying it caused too much stress in their marriage. Every change was presented as something minor, something done for peace. And Maya, wanting peace, agreed. But each little choice pulled her further away from herself. Dolores often stirred trouble behind the scenes. If Maya made a decision Ethan didn't like, Dolores would whisper things to him, then step back and let him do the punishing. She acted sweet in public, but in private, she constantly blamed Maya for problems she didn't cause. As the months passed, Ethan grew colder. He stopped listening to Maya, started talking over her, and treated her feelings like they didn't matter. He didn't hit her then, but his words could cut just as deep. Maya started to feel like a stranger in her own home. Now, thinking back on it all, she realizes the truth. She ignored every warning sign. She told herself that love would fix things, that if she tried hard enough, they'd go back to how they used to be. But love, real love, should never make someone shrink, and Maya had been shrinking for far too long. Maya tried everything to fit in. She learned Dolores's recipes, spending hours in the kitchen just to get the spices and textures right. She started attending Dolores's church, even though it wasn't her faith, just to make peace. She bought long skirts, buttoned-up blouses, and soft pastel sweaters because that's how Dolores dressed. She tried to blend in, to be the perfect daughter-in-law, but no matter how hard she tried, it was never enough. Dolores always found something wrong. "You don't clean properly," she'd say. "A real wife keeps a spotless home." If Maya missed one Sunday at church because of a night shift, Dolores would shake her head and whisper to others, "She's losing her way." If Maya asked a question during a family dinner, Dolores would roll her eyes and mutter that women should stay in their lane. The words hurt, but what hurt more was Ethan's silence. After every family dinner, he would barely speak to her. He wouldn't ask if she was okay, wouldn't defend her when Dolores insulted her. He just sat on the couch, eyes glued to the TV, as if Maya didn't exist. Sometimes he wouldn't talk to her for days, using silence as punishment. Slowly, Maya's world began to shrink. She had once dreamed of going to graduate school to become a nurse practitioner. Her supervisor at the hospital had even recommended her for a leadership program. But Ethan said it would be too much on her plate, and that his mother needed help around the house. Maya let the opportunities slip away. Her ambitions faded into the background. Then one night, something happened that shook her to her core. She came home early from a shift and found Dolores in their bedroom. Not just standing there, Dolores was going through her drawers, touching her things. Maya was shocked and demanded to know what she was doing. Instead of being upset at his mother, Ethan turned on Maya. "She feels unsafe here because of how cold you are," he said. "She was just making sure you weren't hiding anything." Maya stood there, stunned, her privacy violated, her husband siding with his mother again. That night she realized, no matter how perfectly she played the role, the game was always rigged against her. Tension had been building for weeks. Ethan was colder than ever, barely speaking to Maya unless it was to complain or correct her. Dolores had started visiting more often, walking around the house like she owned it, criticizing Maya's cooking, her cleaning, even how she folded towels. Maya stayed quiet. She kept trying. She told herself things would get better after the upcoming family party, but the party turned into a nightmare. Maya spent the entire day preparing, cooking, cleaning, and decorating, while Ethan sat on his laptop and Dolores hovered with her usual sharp comments. Right before the guests arrived, Dolores pulled Maya aside and hissed, "You should be more grateful, you know. Not every man would keep a wife like you." Maya stood frozen, too stunned to respond. Later that night, when the guests were gone and the dishes were done, Maya finally spoke up. "Your mum disrespected me in my own home," she said softly. Ethan didn't even look at her. "You're always making a scene," he said. When she tried to defend herself, he snapped. Without warning, Ethan slapped her. The sound rang through the kitchen. Maya stumbled backward, holding her cheek, her eyes wide with disbelief. The silence after was louder than the hit. Ethan stared at his hand, then at her. "I didn't mean to. I'm just under so much pressure," he said. He tried to hug her, but Maya backed away. Her face burned, not just from the slap, but from the shame. The next day, Maya told her best friend Lena what had happened. Lena was horrified. She begged Maya to leave. "You don't deserve this," she said. "This isn't love." But Maya couldn't bring herself to go. She was scared of starting over, scared of being alone, scared of what people would think. A part of her still hoped Ethan would become the man he used to be. But then came the voicemail. Maya had missed a call from Dolores late one night. When she listened to the message the next morning, her stomach turned. "This is my son's home," Dolores said, her voice cold and clear. "You're just borrowing it. Don't forget your place." Maya saved the voicemail. Something in her finally snapped. She realized it didn't matter how much she cleaned, how many recipes she learned, or how much of herself she gave away. Dolores would always see her as temporary, and Ethan would never protect her. A few days later, the soup incident happened. Maya had just finished a 12-hour shift at the hospital. She came home, too tired to cook Dolores's favorite stew. She left a note, hoping it would be enough. It wasn't. That night, Ethan stormed into the bedroom at 2 a.m., furious. And with Dolores watching silently from the kitchen, he threw Maya out of their home, barefoot, coatless, and broken. That was the breaking point. The cold night air hit Maya like a slap. She stood on the sidewalk, barefoot and shivering, with nothing but her phone in her hand. Ethan had slammed the door shut behind her. Dolores hadn't said a word. She just stood in the kitchen, watching with a satisfied smile. Maya looked down at her feet, already sore from the rough pavement. She had no coat, no bag, no money, just a broken heart and the sharp sting of betrayal. She started walking, unsure of where to go. Every step hurt, her soul scraping against tiny stones and broken glass. Tears blurred her vision as she made her way to the nearest gas station, about half a mile away. Her hands shook as she called Lena. Lena answered on the first ring. "Maya!" Her voice cracked with worry. "He threw me out," Maya sobbed. "I have nowhere to go. Stay right there, I'm coming." 20 minutes later, Lena pulled into the gas station parking lot, jumped out of the car, and wrapped Maya in a blanket. She didn't ask many questions, just took her home, helped her clean her feet, and made her tea. That night, Maya collapsed onto Lena's couch and slept for nearly 18 hours straight. Her body had given up, finally shutting down after months of holding everything in. When she woke up, reality hit hard. Her phone had dozens of missed calls and angry messages from Ethan. Some were cold, some were scary. All of them demanded she return home and apologize to his mother. One read, "You've humiliated me. You'll regret this." Lena sat beside her and said gently, "You need help, Maya. Real help." The next day, Lena took her to a therapist, someone who specialized in trauma and abuse. Just telling her story out loud made Maya cry harder than she had in years. Then, Lena helped her contact a lawyer who explained Maya's rights and what steps she could take. Maya filed a police report that same week, detailing everything from the slap to the threatening texts to the night she was thrown out barefoot. She also filed for a restraining order. It wasn't just about protecting herself anymore. It was about reclaiming her life. Maya knew that if she wanted to be free for good, she needed more than just a restraining order. She needed to protect herself legally. The therapist gently urged her to document everything. Lena helped her search through old messages, photos, and voice recording. It was painful. Every screenshot and voicemail brought back memories she had tried to suppress. But Maya pushed through. She found the text where Ethan told her, "If you don't start showing my mother some respect, you can leave." She saved the threatening messages he sent after kicking her out. She played the voicemail from Dolores again, the one where she said, "You're just borrowing my son's house." Then came the pictures. Maya had taken photos of her bruises weeks ago, after Ethan grabbed her too hard during an argument. She had sent them to herself, but never showed anyone. Now, those photos became important proof. Her lawyer, a kind but sharp woman named Rachel, was straightforward. "You've got a solid case. We'll file for divorce and pursue spousal abuse charges. It won't be easy, but you're not alone." Maya nodded. Her hands were still shaky, but something inside her had changed. She was no longer trying to fix things. She was trying to survive and reclaim her life. As she prepared her case, the memories came flooding back. She remembered how Ethan slowly took over the finances. At first, it was just to keep things simple, but soon Maya didn't even know how much they had in the bank. She wasn't allowed to send money to her own mother without Ethan asking why. Dolores once called her selfish for wanting to buy a new pair of work shoes. There were the cameras Ethan installed around the house for safety, but Maya noticed they always seemed to track her, what time she came home, where she sat, who she spoke to. Once, she forgot to make the bed, and Ethan showed her a video of it, demanding to know why she disrespected their space. The emotional control was constant. Dolores would whisper insults masked as advice. Ethan would sulk for days if Maya spent too long on the phone with her sister. It wasn't love. It was a slow, painful erasure of who she used to be. Despite it all, Maya felt something new growing inside her, strength. She joined online support groups and began reading stories from women who had escaped similar nightmares. They welcomed her, encouraged her, shared their wins and their setbacks. In one post, someone wrote, "The moment you choose yourself is the moment healing begins." Maya saved it to her phone. She looked at all the evidence she'd collected, all the pain laid out in text and photos, and whispered to herself, "They threw me out, but they didn't break me." That was the beginning of her escape. Not just from a house, but from years of silence, fear, and emotional chains. Ethan wasn't going to let go quietly. As soon as Maya filed for divorce and the restraining order became official, he started spreading lies. He told mutual friends, co-workers, and even his cousins that Maya had a mental breakdown. He claimed she was unstable, emotional, and made up stories for attention. Some people believed him at first. Others reached out to Maya, confused, unsure of what to think. But Maya had prepared for this. With the help of Lena and her lawyer, she carefully posted her side of the story online. She didn't just tell what happened, she showed it. Screenshots of the threatening messages, voice recordings of Dolores's toxic comments, and photos of her bruised arms and swollen feet from the night she was thrown out. All of it was posted in one powerful, heartbreaking thread. Within hours, the post began to spread. Comments flooded in. People were shocked, angry, and moved by Maya's story. Survivors from all over shared their support, thanking her for being brave enough to speak out. The story was reposted on major platforms, and soon, a local news outlet reached out, asking if she would share her experience for a community story on domestic emotional abuse. Maya agreed, her voice calm but firm during the interview. She didn't mention Ethan's last name, but the people who needed to know already knew. The fallout was immediate. Dolores, who had always enjoyed her respected place at church, was quietly removed from the Women's Council. The pastor, after reading Maya's post and seeing the evidence, met with Dolores privately. No statement was made, but Dolores stopped attending services soon after. Ethan faced consequences too. His company prided itself on ethical behavior and strong community ties. While they never issued a public statement, Ethan's name quietly disappeared from their employee directory. His keycard stopped working. Maya later heard he was let go due to internal concerns. For the first time in years, Maya felt like the truth was louder than the lies. She didn't post for revenge. She posted for the woman she used to be, the one who thought staying quiet would keep the peace. Now, thousands of women were thanking her for speaking up. And Maya? She finally felt seen. Ethan wasn't finished. Humiliated by the public backlash and losing his job, he decided to strike back. He filed a petition demanding spousal support, claiming Maya had emotionally abused him and damaged his reputation with her viral post. On top of that, he sued her for defamation, insisting that her online story was filled with lies meant to destroy him. Maya was stunned. Even after everything he had done, Ethan was trying to paint himself as the victim. But this time, she wasn't scared. She had her lawyer, Rachel, by her side. And more importantly, she had the truth. Rachel filed a counterclaim. She laid out clear evidence of spousal abuse, coercive control, and emotional manipulation. The screenshots, voicemails, photos, and videos were organized into a timeline. They painted a devastating picture of Maya's life with Ethan and the toxic role Dolores had played. The courtroom was tense during the hearings. Ethan sat with his new lawyer, trying to look calm and professional, but Maya could see the cracks. Dolores, too, came to court dressed in her Sunday best, acting like the perfect mother-in-law. But when she took the stand, things began to unravel. Under oath, Dolores denied ever calling Maya names or entering her bedroom uninvited. But Rachel stood up with receipts, actual video footage from their old home security system, showing Dolores opening their bedroom door when Maya wasn't home. She presented a voicemail where Dolores clearly said, "This is my son's house. You're just a guest." Dolores stammered, then tried to claim the audio was fake. But a digital forensics expert verified the timestamps and authenticity. The judge narrowed his eyes, clearly unimpressed. Then came the texts. Rachel showed the court a message where Ethan threatened Maya, "Apologize to my mother or leave. I mean it." He had sent it just 2 days before throwing her out at 2 a.m. Ethan tried to argue context, but the message was clear and damaging. By the end of the trial, Maya's case was airtight. The judge dismissed Ethan's claims of defamation and denied his request for spousal support. Instead, Ethan was ordered to pay Maya's legal fees. The final blow came when the court filed a separate harassment charge against Dolores for her pattern of verbal abuse and invasion of privacy. Dolores gasped when the judge read the decision aloud. Outside the courthouse, Maya didn't celebrate with cheers or shouting. She just stood quietly, holding Lena's hand, as tears rolled down her cheeks. She had fought for herself and won, not just in court, but in reclaiming her power. The justice system had seen through the lies, and now, finally, Maya could begin the next chapter of her life without fear. Maya's new apartment wasn't fancy. It had creaky floors, chipped cabinets, and the heater made a weird humming sound, but it was hers. For the first time in years, she closed a door and felt safe on the other side. No one yelling, no eyes watching her. just quiet. She started therapy twice a week. At first, she struggled to speak. Her words came out in fragments, shaky, broken. But over time, she found her voice. Her therapist didn't just listen. She helped Maya unlearn the guilt, the fear, and the self-doubt Dolores and Ethan had planted in her. Healing was messy. Some nights, Maya cried herself to sleep, curled up on her mattress with flashbacks rushing in. Other mornings, she caught herself smiling while brushing her teeth, smiling for no reason, just because she could. She started laughing more with Lena, their late-night talks slowly replacing the silence that had once haunted her. One day, Maya opened an old message request on social media. It was from a college friend she hadn't seen in years. The message said, "I don't know what you've been through, but I just want to say, I remember how strong, smart, and kind you were. I hope you're still that person." Maya read that message 3 times. It hit her harder than she expected. That night, she opened her laptop and started typing. Her fingers shook as she wrote, but she didn't stop. In 3 hours, she finished a blog post titled, "Why I Chose Myself." She didn't name names. She didn't dwell in bitterness. She told the truth. She wrote about choosing peace over pain, freedom over fear, and self-respect over survival. She wrote it for herself, but also for every woman who felt trapped by love that hurt more than it healed. When she published it, she felt exposed. But within hours, readers began to comment. Strangers, survivors, even a teacher from her high school. They said her words made them feel less alone. Maya wasn't who she used to be. She wasn't who Ethan tried to shape her into either. She was rebuilding, not perfectly, not quickly, but honestly. And this time, the foundation was her. 1 year later, Maya sat in a quiet studio, wearing headphones and facing a microphone. The podcast host smiled gently and asked, "So Maya, when did you know you were finally free?" Maya took a deep breath before answering. "The night I moved into my apartment. Not because everything was better, but because for the first time, I didn't have to ask permission to exist." Her voice was steady, her words clear. She spoke openly about the emotional abuse, the manipulation, and the silent war she fought behind closed doors. The episode was titled, "When Love Hurts, Escaping the Grip of Toxic In-Laws." Within days of airing, it had over 200,000 plays. Then, the messages started pouring in. Women from all over the country messaged her. Teachers, nurses, stay-at-home mums, even grandmothers. They shared stories of mothers-in-law who controlled their lives, husbands who turned against them, and families who expected them to stay quiet. Many said Maya's story gave them the courage to leave, to speak, or to start again. Some messages made her cry. Others filled her with rage. But most of all, they reminded her she wasn't alone, and neither were they. As her voice reached further, the ripple effects continued back home. Dolores, once proud and powerful, now lived alone in a quiet house that felt colder than she ever imagined. Her church had asked her to step down from the council months ago, citing conflicts of character. Former friends kept their distance. She spent her days scrolling through social media, watching Maya's life bloom. Ethan, too, had felt the consequences. Word had spread through the community after Maya's blog post went viral and the court case became public. His reputation crumbled. The company that once praised him let him go without notice. Friends unfollowed him. Old contacts stopped replying. He tried dating again, but most people had already seen the screenshots. He was no longer the confident man who once screamed at Maya in the hallway. He had become a shadow of himself, but Maya wasn't focused on revenge anymore. She had peace now. She spent weekends hiking, teaching a self-care class at a community center, and recording more podcast episodes with survivors. Her latest project was a book titled Borrowed House, Owned Soul. At the end of that first podcast, she left her listeners with one last thought. "They broke my heart, but I rebuilt my life. And if you're listening and feel trapped, please know you're not crazy, you're not weak, and you're definitely not alone. Share your story, speak your truth, because silence only protects the wrong people." And with that, Maya closed the loop, not as a victim, but as a survivor who chose herself. Did Maya do the right thing by leaving? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more stories like this.